Hi, and welcome back to Goodnight Rita, a deep dive series all about Groundhog Day and other time loops in popular culture, hosted by me, Christopher Bingham. When it comes to teenage or coming-of-age time loop movies, it turns out there are a lot to choose from. But the one that stood out to me the most is called The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, a 2021 movie written by Lev Grossman, directed by Ian Samuels, and starring Kathryn Newton and Kyle Allen. This movie explores the time loop scenario in a really refreshing way. It's really fun, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it. Plus, keep watching till the end for a few other movies you can add to your watch list.
I was wondering, this is gonna sound really strange, got really bizarre, but are you experiencing any kind of temporal anomaly in your life?
The Map of Tiny Perfect Things tells the story of Mark, a teenager stuck living the same day over and over. We don't know how long he's been in the loop when the movie starts, but it's long enough he seems to have memorized everything that happens around his hometown. Until one day, something's different. Enter Margaret, a standoffish girl he's never met before, and who is also trapped in the loop. They strike up an awkward friendship that blossoms into a romance, except that Margaret is holding something back. One of its key plot points involves Margaret and Mark running around town collecting perfect things. Spontaneous and often beautiful moments that most people would never get to experience, let alone see them more than once. Two little kids excitedly lighting up their treehouse, a douchebag tripping on his own wallet chain, a bird of prey catching a fish in a solitary pond. Their map of these events ultimately helps to guide Margaret to a way out of the loop, but only after she confronts the grief she's been keeping secret from Mark. This movie is just about the cutest and most feel-goodinest of the feel-good groundhogs on my list.
He made a map of us.
As such, it might be too sugary sweet for some viewers, but if you have a soft spot for this kind of thing, you'll find a story with a lot of heart. A coming-of-age romance about facing your fears and not shutting people out, wrapped in a very well-executed riff on the repeating day concept. Tiny Perfect Things is perhaps most comparable to Groundhog Day in terms of how the loop works. It's a fixed-length, single day that always seems to repeat at the same time. No character has direct control over when it begins or ends, although we do learn a fairly clear reason for its existence at the end. It actually has a lot more in common with Palm Springs. Similar to Palm Springs, its creators chose to start us off with the protagonists already being trapped. The opening 10 minutes uses some brilliant shorthand. We open on Mark going through his well-practiced morning routine and attempting to orchestrate a meet-cute with this girl.
Sorry. Are you okay?
Thank you.
He hangs out with his best friend Henry, and they discuss, in theory, what you might do if you were stuck in a time loop. As a side note, they actually name-check Groundhog Day in this scene, about 8 minutes into the movie.
Wait, wasn't that a movie where Bill Murray's stuck in the same day till he has sex with his hot boss?
Groundhog Day.
And later on, they mention Edge of Tomorrow.
Dude, listen, we're stuck in a time loop, you, me, everybody, same days repeating over and over again. Like in Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow.
Here it does something that Groundhog Day doesn't, but Palm Springs does. It uses flashbacks, right? It tells the story in a non-linear way. Flashbacks are often very poorly deployed, but I think in this sequence it's an excellent choice. And it has a lot to do with the editing. Their use of very short cutaways, with the music mostly constant underneath, there's like little choice bits of sound design, and their conversation overlaps it all.
Okay, forget that. No. You could be a force for good.
Like Batman. But are we talking Dark Knight Batman or Van Affleck
Dude,
Batman? Because
animated series, obviously.
no, I'd still take the girl. I feel like it would ultimately be more satisfying.
Right.
It very smoothly shows us a bunch of different days. It tells us about Mark's character. It's funny. It makes us like him. This is great. Like, this is a very good opening 10 minutes to a rom-com.
You'd be like the last man on Earth.
There's also the fact that there are two characters in the loop rather than one. It opens up all these interesting extra options in terms of dynamics. Mark is bored of the loop and feels like he's done everything there is to do, except later when he's forced to re-examine his own behavior, he sees that he's been ignoring the people closest to him. He wants to leave, but Margaret is scared to, kind of a reverse of Palm Springs. But it's Margaret's love of science that ultimately helps her figure out the pattern. Margaret is the one with control here. Margaret is the one that solves the problem. And again, like Palm Springs, the quote-unquote science of it all is very soft, and it has more to do with Margaret making the choice to face her issues, accept help, and be vulnerable with Mark. I think you could even argue that there's no science here at all, right? There's no science fiction element here at all. It's just that the magic of the time loop takes the form of something Margaret will engage with.
Well, if the fourth dimension wants to stop hiding like a little bitch and knows where to find me.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I really like making these, and I'm trying to do something a little bit crazy here, which is I want to make this my job. Not only that, I want to scale it so it can create jobs for other people. There are a bunch of ways you can support the channel, but one of the best and most direct is by joining our Patreon community. I know it's a bunch of extra clicks, and I also know every other channel is asking you to do something similar. But if you feel like you're getting value out of what I'm making here, consider joining, even if it's only for a month or two. You'll get to have a say in the topics I cover in the future, and you'll get access to bonus content and private channels on our Discord server. Or if you prefer, you can make a one-off donation directly at chriscoolblog.com. Thank you so much. In a way, Palm Springs and Tiny Perfect Things are twin movies, a phenomenon that we've talked about on this channel before, and we definitely will again. They were released in 2020 and 2021, really close together, and they share remarkable similarities. But as you often find when you research these things, they're not connected, and their development journeys were completely different. Tiny Perfect Things started out as a pitch for a TV series, according to an interview Grossman gave with Sci-Fi. It sounds like a show I would totally watch, by the way. Then he turned it into a short story, and that's what provided the material for the movie. According to Grossman, it was actually inspired really directly by Edge of Tomorrow, which came out in 2014, and in particular, the farmhouse scene. If you're watching this series, at this point, I have to assume you've seen Edge of Tomorrow. And so you know the scene Grossman is thinking of, the bit where we learn that they've actually done this more times than we think they have, and the farmhouse is as far as they get without Rita dying.
How many times have we been here?
This interview is great, by the way, and I will put the link in the description because I think if you're interested in this kind of thing, you should read it in full. And this bit really took me aback because when I think of Edge of Tomorrow, I also think very vividly of that scene. You know, in a movie that isn't as poetic or subtle as others on this list, that is the scene that really carries some emotional weight. It's always cool when you see another creative getting excited about the same things you do. And I also think it's fascinating how intertwined some of these modern examples truly are.
How did you find that?
I love this idea of thinking of the day as a place, you know, events as discoveries, things you can collect, things you can share with each other. It makes me think of something that we all do with our friends or when we're on dates. You know, we love to share our favorite restaurants or hangout spots. It resonates with me because it feels like something I would do. And it's a way of gamifying the loop. In episode 5, I had this whole section that I ended up cutting out where I talked a lot about one of my favorite video games, Dead Rising, and how, like, yes, it's a zombie survival game, but really it's a time loop game about learning where and when things happen, and like trying a different route, taking a different approach each time you play. And this is what is being represented so perfectly in Tiny Perfect Things. What Grossman has tapped into with this story so well is that vicarious kind of wish fulfillment aspect of the loop genre I was talking about in that episode. It's playing in that space, treating it like this endless canvas where you can learn new things, try different combinations and see what happens. And also, you know, establishing for yourself a greater mission to make the map and to one day escape. It reminds me a lot of how I've played Minecraft in the past, and it's always better with a friend. Dropping into a session and being like, what are we going to build today? You get together and you decide what the goal is and then you go for it. And I think that Tiny Perfect Things captures that mindset of structured play so well. And it's just a joy to watch. So if you like this, what else is there? The more I've thought about it, this really is the teenager's Palm Springs. Or maybe Palm Springs is the adult Tiny Perfect Things. So if you've watched one and liked it but not watched the other, give it a go. When it comes to coming of age, we also have Before I Fall, directed by Rai Russo Young and starring Zoe Deutsch. This is Groundhog Day for moody teenage girls, about a spoiled, depressed popular girl who's actually secretly nice, being humbled by tragedy. And then there's Happy Death Day, directed by Christopher Landon and starring Jessica Roth. That's your college dorm comedy slasher Groundhog Day, where our protagonist keeps getting murdered by a masked killer stalking the campus and has to get over herself before she can solve the mystery. Both were released in 2017, and both are pretty interesting in their own ways. Also, I discovered while I was writing this that in 2024, this movie was remade in Thailand as Rak One Loop, aka Love Stuck. So I do feel obliged to check that out and let you know how it is. But up next, we're going to be talking about a 2019 movie called The Incredible Shrinking Weekend, directed by John Miquel Caballero, a melancholic Spanish time loop that makes some really interesting choices. And I'm going to be using it as a launchpad to discuss some other modern examples. I've had some feedback that this series kind of feels like being part of a book club only for movies, and I love that. So, for those people who are really following along and enjoying it, just a little kind of programming heads up about the next few episodes. We're getting towards the end of this series, and what I'm trying to do is kind of slowly expand the curated list of movies that I want to talk about. Next up will be The Incredible Shrinking Weekend. I had a surprisingly difficult time tracking down a copy of this movie. So if you want to watch it, ahead of the video, but you can't find it, maybe come and join my Discord and maybe I can hook you up. Then after that, I'm planning to do a list of my favorite television examples. Then I think it's going to be spreadsheet time, but otherwise this series is going to go on for an entire year. And just so you're prepared, that episode is probably going to be an hour long. It's going to be very dry, very nerdy, but if you really want to get into all this watching and research that I've done, that's the one. And if you want a deeper list of what else we're watching, so that you can be a little bit more prepared for that, do join the Discord and I'll share that there. Thank you to everybody who is enjoying Goodnight Rita, who has been watching all these videos, especially if you're leaving comments and engaging with it. And if you want to help out the show and the channel, consider sharing out your favorite episode, or maybe send the playlist to somebody you think will enjoy it. And of course, consider joining the Patreon or coming along to one of my music streams on Sundays.